What is the hardest part about creating these vlogs and your content?
I've got ADHD. It's very hard for me to sustain my interest in something over a long period of time.
What made you want to start vlogging while you were on the cruise ship? Was it just straight up boredom, or did you actually want to tell the story, or?
So I actually experimented with the format a little bit. So, I'm a fan of Peter McKinnon and Casey and all those guys. Yeah. So I spent way too much money on camera gear after my first contract, because I suddenly had money, I had all this money that I hadn't spent. So I'm like, okay, screw it. I'm just going to buy a bunch of camera gear and I'm going to try this. I'm going to see what it's like. And the videos, nothing happened. Performed terribly. For the longest time, my most viewed video was 150 views. And that was the first video I ever made. From there, I just documenting cool stuff. We were in Japan. So we get off the ship in Japan, I filmed some stuff with my friends, et cetera, et cetera. If you watch some of my early videos, so they're still there. But then I stopped that for a while, and then COVID came along, and there just wasn't anything to do. And I was watching other people making content and using this time to be creative. I was like, well, I can do that. And there is, in terms of creation on YouTube, there's kind of this void at the moment, or at least there was, especially a few years ago. Not very many people were making videos from the perspective of crew members. Over the past 2 years, that has definitely kind of started to expand more.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like I was one of the lucky ones that was able to kind of ride that wave alongside the coronavirus, and it just worked, I guess.
Well, I feel like one reason why you're doing so well is not just because you're able to tell a story really well, but also your quality is up there. I look at your vlogs, and it's, I feel like I'm watching a short film documentary.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
There's, I'm my own worst critic. I always will be. But,
sure,
I'm always trying to improve the content and learn from things that I don't like in previous videos. There's a saying that Peter McKinnon has, done is better than perfect. And I always employ that because I'm inherently a perfectionist, and I will spend way too much time on a project if I let myself. So, I'll always remind myself that I just get to the next video and I can make that one just better than the last one. That's my process. Just keep iterating until I get better, instead of iterating on one project,
Right. When I started to make videos several years ago, it was around the 2017-18 era, and one of the challenges I had with vlogging was having all that footage later, and then just not really knowing what to do with it, and spending 6 to 8 hours on the computer chopping something up. And it just became frustrating having to try to tell the story. Eventually, I got to the point where you would kind of edit it in your head as you're shooting it.
Yeah, exactly. You have to figure out at least some sort of framework for what you're shooting ahead of time. Otherwise, I've found that it just doesn't work. And that took me several tries to figure out, okay, I need to at least be giving myself a bulleted list of what I'm talking about today or something. I can't keep it all in my head,
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
So I definitely think about my edits and stuff ahead of time while I'm shooting, and that really helps the process to, just kind of mesh better.
As I was watching some of your videos too, in your editing style, again, very much like Casey, for example, you're running around the ship, and then I just imagine you running to the railway and then setting up the camera, then running back.
That's exactly what it's like. That's literally what happens, and it's worth it. The shots look great, and it feels a little dumb at first, but when you sit down in front of the computer and you've got that footage, it's all worth it.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's my mentality, is like, I almost think of myself as two different people. I'm the person that's shooting the video and the person that's editing, and we're constantly at odds with each other, you know, because like the guy that's shooting doesn't want to embarrass himself and just wants to get the video done. But the guy that's editing wants these cool shots and wants my shooting guy to go the extra mile. And, you know, finding that line has been an interesting journey.
What is the hardest part about creating these vlogs and your content for you?
There's a lot of challenges to it recently. I've got ADHD, so I generally jump from project to project. It's very hard for me to sustain my interest in something over a long period of time. So, you know, finding ways to keep myself engaged in making content has been a challenge for sure, because I want to make videos. It's great to have this little passive source of income and to be able to connect with all these people and share these cool stories and stuff. But keeping myself, you know, excited about the process on a daily basis, that's probably the hardest thing for me. Just staying engaged and trying to find new and cool things to do and new footage angles and just stuff to keep my brain on track.
Yeah. Now that you're off the ship, well, number one, I feel like you've definitely got a backlog of footage. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
How you've got a ton of footage that you can sift through. So that should get you through, you know, maybe a month's worth of content or just a little bit more.
Yeah, at least a few videos for sure. We'll see.
Yeah. I was just looking at an article saying that ships aren't going to start resuming until they push the date back now to November 1st.
Yeah, I was hearing October, November. Yeah.
Yeah, literally, I just saw an article today, and it was from like 8 hours ago. But that being the case, I guess, first of all, do you plan on going back to ships?
Yes, I do. Definitely. I wouldn't say I necessarily miss being on ships right now. You know, I feel like that chapter of this year has kind of come to its natural conclusion. But I'm definitely looking forward. Oh, are we still here? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting back and working again when that happens.
What are you going to do, for example, for content then, once you kind of run through all of your footage? And do you have any plans for that, for your channel?
I do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's that's something that I was stressing out about before I even left, was like, how am I going to transition this like YouTube channel, which has been exclusively on this one cruise ship documenting this one part of the story. How am I going to take that and move it to a more broader content, you know, stuff that people are still going to watch and stuff that my viewers are still going to watch, but obviously I can't do that on a cruise ship anymore. So that's something I've been thinking about for a long time. And what I've settled on, I think, is I live in Alaska, and the tourism industry here is hugely dependent on cruise lines coming up here and getting people with lots of money to spend stuff on souvenirs and excursions and all that stuff. And that's just not happening right now. You know, there's a lot of people that either just haven't opened up their businesses for the summer or are struggling to make ends meet. And I think that's a huge untold story that I would like to talk to some local business owners and, you know, explore some of these abandoned hotels and lodges that have, they're like huge complexes that are completely empty right now.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So I think that'd be super fun. And I think that ties in very well with the content I've already been making. So.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to that content because, you know, like then now it's, you know, now we've seen you on the ship and that it's the next chapter, if you will.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm excited. But I definitely want to keep talking about, you know, how this pandemic is affecting us all. And there's so many stories to be told, not just on ships, but everywhere. And yeah, especially in Alaska, I think people will be really interested in that.